Greetings, metallurgists. Marty here from Heavy Metallurgy with yet another review. This time we are going to talk about Incantation, a band that is maybe a bit more than a band. They're a brand, they're an institution, and a brutal entity that has been crushing in the death metal ranks for over 30 years now. Let's get into the album. So today I'll be discussing the 13th Incantation album called Unholy Deification, which is coming out on August 25th on Relapse Records. The band re-signed to the label several years back, completing the circle, more or less. They stepped away, were on their own label for a while, and did some other things on some different labels, but they're back. And Unholy Deification, I gotta say, I always anticipate quality, evil death metal. John just has an ear for this. It's his been a lifelong career. He is an amazing songwriter. He's an amazing riff writer. One thing that can be said about John McEntee is that he is a never say die individual. I cannot tell you how many hundreds of lineup changes Incantation has withstood over the years. Though for the longest time it has been John and drummer Kyle Severin. They're the duo at the helm, even though Kyle doesn't go out and do a lot of the big tours anymore with John. There's a fill-in drummer for that. Those two keep Incantation, the core of it, solid, though unique. I mean, Incantation sounds like Incantation. It's amazing. And for Unholy Deification, we've got Chuck Sherwood again on bass. He also did the lyrics on this one. And Luke Shively, new guy, who replaced Sonny Lombardozzi. Again, turmoil. Changing members in the lineup, sometimes that could be a problem for a band. You bring in a new flavor of musician, it changes the music ever so slightly. But through all of these changes throughout over 30 years has been, the changes have been kept at bay. John has kept a close focus on what Incantation is, and that is straight up unholy death metal of the brutal variety, not the crowd killing, ninja kicks in the crowd type of brutal, evil, sick, earthly death metal. I have liked every single Incantation album. Some are better than others, but they all have a level of consistency that runs throughout the entire catalog, which is to be applauded. Yet this consistency does not mean stagnation, typically. I will say the last album that came out in 2020, Sect of Vile Divinities. Again, I like this record. It's a good record. There's just something about it that didn't jump off the page at me, if that makes any sense. It was a little too slick sounding. And slick, overpolished, heavily produced death metal kind of loses a bit of that dirt under your fingernails feeling, like clawing out of the grave. This was mixed and mastered by Dan Swano. Typically, that guy knows what he's doing. He knows death metal. So when Unholy Deification came into our inbox here at Heavy Metallurgy headquarters, first I knew the music was going to be solid, and it is. I instantly was interested in what it was going to sound like, and I'm pleased to report this album is very organic sounding, heavy as hell. It sounds like Incantation. John took over the vocal duties years and years and years ago, which was probably the smartest move because he would always have to replace a guitarist and a vocalist at the same time. So him taking the reins on this, even though his voice might not have been necessarily, his speaking voice necessarily wasn't geared for the level of brutality he lays down, his voice has gotten better and better over the years. He's really kind of come into this more guttural growling style. He's getting better and better at it, which is very encouraging. But Unholy Deification sounds great, heavy, yet has that organic earthen quality. And speaking of organics, I want to talk about Kyle Severn's drum performance. He has always been my favorite drummer in Incantation. He just has a very heavy and exact playing style. He's got a very cool backbeat about it, a really earthy, I don't know how to say it. He just has a sound that it's very plodding and organic, and I always enjoy the type of fills he puts into the music. He always accentuates the riff with just what it needs. It's excellent drummer. It's great to hear him still at the helm, keeping the time, pushing this band's material forward. Musically, really, it's death metal. There's always been a hint of autopsy in John's riff writing, especially when he takes the music into more doomy territories, which does happen on occasion on this album, especially on the track Circle, Eye of Ascension. That ends the album. It's the longest song on the album. I kind of wish he would have went out with a song a little more aggravated, but Circle is a patient song. It has a doomy vibe to it. It comes back around. It builds up. In the middle of the song, I'm thinking, I kind of want this to go somewhere. Patience, it happens. It comes around. It finally starts to pick up. It ends the album well. But yeah, that influence, the autopsy influence, has always been in the doomy parts of John's writing. But again, Unholy Deification is just riff after riff after riff of old school, proper old school, meaning they're actual riffs composed into an actual song. We're not relying on a polluted cavern to sell your music with just simple 1, 2, 3, 4 riffs. There's a lot of interesting riffs on here. He's always been a great songwriter, and his riffs really, they flip things upside down when things need to be brutal and evil, and they recall on moments of melody to sell hooks that are necessary to keep the song stuck in your brain. And again, John's vocals, he sings and plays at the same time, which I've always stated, it's a trick for guitarists. Some can separate the two, where they can throw vocal lines over the guitars that are separate from the guitar lines, which is what John does most of the time. He can follow along with the riff. That is a common staple it's a formula. He can do that, and he can break away. So the fact that he can do both at the same time and keep the songs fresh and not every song sounding the same with the presentation, excellent. Very good stuff. What John is singing about this time, the lyrics were composed by bassist Chuck Sherwood. Apparently there's a concept here. I'm going to read you a little blurb from the bio. The Incantation bassist wanted to capture a fully realized concept of evolution through enlightenment. Expect thought-provoking, historically derived intellection. The mortal to deity narrative interacts with the merciless musical conflagration of hard-hitting tracks. So it's a concept about evil stuff that really happened. Okay. I don't know. Older I get, the less I care about the evil stuff. Long as it sounds evil, long as they can sell that evil through the sound and the impact and the intent behind the music, then I'm down. And it's here. It's here. Again, another Incantation album that walks the line between evil, brutality, and coherent, excellent songwriting. Unholy Deification does it for sure. Visually, Italian artist Elleran Cantor, who has done multiple covers for Incantation over the years, once again is at the canvas here. It's not digitally produced art. Maybe it is. It looks like a painting though. I know he did the new Halloween. He's done some older Incantation stuff. He's done a lot of things for a lot of bands, and he just has a very interesting art style. It's dark, it's twisted. You don't really know what you're looking at, but it looks awesome. Good color scheme. It fits, the art fits the album well. A couple favorite tracks here. I already mentioned Circle. I was a little concerned that song was going to end the album on a downer note. Picks up. My favorite song on the album has got to go to Chalice, which is the fastest song on the album. One of the fastest songs on the album. Really focuses on quick, deliberate, super memorable riffage. Fast, in your face. Kyle's drum performance, again, he just has a very interesting way of playing fast. It just sounds, I keep saying organic. It sounds like he hits hard, and you can really hear like a slight delay in the kick snare. It's not, I don't know if they call it a backbeat. I'm not a drummer, so I don't know exactly what it is, but he just has this really cool plod to his performance that always interested me. I always really gravitated toward his performance. I always thought he was the grit that held Incantation together. Cordant is another favorite, another early track in the album. Again, interesting riffage throughout. John just has this knack for coming up with these, every album sounds the same, yet a little bit different. And this one here, he just seems inspired. He continues to be inspired. After 30 years, he has not deviated from the initial concept of Incantation. They have, the early stuff, the production was weird. It gave it more of an evil vibe. As the production has improved over the years, the music really hasn't deviated from the mission statement. It stays within its realm, which is well written, well executed, always fresh sounding death metal. Unholy Deification also features some guests. We have Jeff Becerra from Possessed, Henry Vigian from Revenant, and a Dan Vadim Vaughn from Morbid Angel guest appearing on here. Obviously, Jeff is probably doing some vocals. I don't have the exact liner notes, and when I put this album on, there's nothing that jumps out at me as differentiating from it. Just sounds like an Incantation album. So and obviously Revenant, John was in Revenant early on in their career before Incantation, really. So family in the old school getting together, coming together to work on and pay tribute to the institution that is Incantation. I really can't say enough good things about this record. Again, A Sect of Vile Divinities, a solid album. Just out of the run that led up to it, it's my least favorite in a long time. This album, to me, Unholy Deification sounds like a step in a much better direction, even though that direction is on the straight and narrow path. Fine. I am all for towing the line and doing what you're good at. And Incantation, they're a storm, man. They are a storm of excellent, well-composed American death metal. Known the world over. They put in the years, they put in the time, they put in the miles. They've sacrificed, and I'm glad Incantation is a band that people still talk about today and are still putting out worthwhile albums. And Unholy Deification is one of them. They're putting out another great record, and they're 13th. It's impressive. If you are into death metal, sometimes you just got to stick with the true old school. They won't steer you wrong most of the time. Incantation does it again. And thumbs up from me. And if you enjoyed this review, let's talk about the album a little bit in the comments. And maybe subscribe. That'd be sweet. Helps us out a bunch. There's more reviews to come on Heavy Metallurgy from myself and our other metallurgists coming soon. So until then, next time, listen to Incantation, and we will see you in the next review. Cheers.